About that time, man.
It's about that time.
How you feeling,
Dude,
baby?
we're in the building, man. Good seeing you,
Good seeing you,
man.
bro. Father figures in the
Dude,
building.
I appreciate you being here, man.
First of all, shout out to Nucleus. Subscribe, tap in, app, store near you. We're coming, pulling up, pop ups. Want to make sure we shout out the brand.
Let's
The brand is
go.
brolic right now.
I love it, dude.
Uh,
I appreciate you showing up with the nuclear shirt,
Absolutely,
man.
brother. I love the
Dude, I
movement.
appreciate it.
I love everything you represent. I love everything your brand represents. I love how you're evolving and growing and expanding, and I look forward to being a part of that journey with you.
Thank you,
It's
man.
a movement.
Dude, since day one when we
Hmm.
first met,
Absolutely.
out our building. Because by the way, we're neighbors, guys. We're
Yeah.
neighbors. Literally, like
Shout out to
what?
Ami Hoya.
Three
Cut the check.
doors.
Cut the check while we shout you
Got
out.
the
Cut the check.
check. Who knows, Amley?
Right.
You got to plug a nucleus
Facts.
in Amley.
Absolutely. We need the
Let's
nucleus
go.
Amly. Yeah.
You
Put
guys
that.
got the little
Facts.
co-working area.
Facts.
Come on
Co-working
now.
space. Come on. We coming to
So,
you.
dude, we've known each other for what, at least
Hmm.
like 2 years.
Yeah, at least 2
At
years.
least 2 years.
Yeah.
Dude, day one, like this,
Instant.
literally like this, and
Alignment.
true alignment,
Hmm.
man. You know, it's one of those things because every time it's like every time I see you, whether it's I'm pulling up or I've gone
Yeah.
for the walks,
Yeah.
it's like it was like meant to be.
It's
It's
the law
like
of attraction.
literally.
And we talk about we don't see each other all the time, but I think at the right time it's perfect timing. And I think when you're aligned with the universe and you do that inner work, the shadow work,
Hmm.
I think the universe puts you in those spaces to it seeks out the things that you need. And I think as two young fathers who are navigating, you know, that journey, I think we found an instant connection. And
100.
hearing about your entrepreneurial pursuits, I'm interested in transitioning into entrepreneurship. It made a lot of sense for me. But forget the entrepreneurship. I like you as a person
Thank
and
you,
as
man.
a human. I think you offer a lot, not just for me as a friend, but to the community. And I want to amplify and elevate that in any way possible.
I appreciate that, dude.
Um,
Honestly, it means a lot, especially coming for you, dude. Like the respect I have for you, how you carry yourself, the energy you put out there, from being a father to, holding yourself to a certain standard, the work you do within the industry that you work in, to wanting to create more, and you exploring your entrepreneurial journey, and you talking about your podcast and doing all these amazing things. And at the end of the day, it always goes back to how you want to create impact in a
mhm,
positive way, not just for yourself, but for the others around you, for the ones that really need that,
mhm.
and how you just constantly share your energy in such a I say in such a beautiful way, man. Because you know how it is, man. Like you can hang around people, and not all energy is good
Not all
energy.
energy, good energy. Facts.
And one thing that you always do well is you do well in protecting your energy, but not only that, is giving good energy.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's something that every time I'm with you, I'm around you, like you make it a thing where it's like, how can I drive positivity in this
Hmm.
person's life today? How can I give them some of my good energy, so they can go carry that on throughout the day and spread that energy to other people? So
Come on,
that's
bro. You gonna make me share the gangster tear in here, man. I ain't trying to get emotional. But actually, I don't mind being emotional. And I think that was something I definitely wanted to talk to you about. Just navigating masculinity and identifying what a man should be. I think we're kind of, I think what manhood represented traditionally, and I think how I feel comfortable crying with you. I feel comfortable being open and transparent and vulnerable with you. And I think those are the things as men we should encourage more of. Um, and I haven't always felt comfortable in that space. And I think, in my 30s now, as I've matured and evolved, unlearned things from childhood and kind of, I guess, transformed my mindset, did meditation and therapy and kind of unpacked some of those childhood traumas. It's kind of opened and unleashed some things for me to where, when I met you, man, I instantly saw, man, this brother is doing some of the same work I'm doing. And I actually look up to what you're creating and what you've built, not just as a company, but just as a person. You know what I mean? I think people buy into you, the person, before they buy into your brand or your company. And I think, you know, I feel it's quality over quantity for me. I don't need 100 friends, but if I have a solid 10, I think that's all that matters. And I think we have to not feel like we need to conform to what society wants us to be. I think we have to be proactive and define what society should be. You know what I mean? And I think that's what you were talking about. Um, I, I think we're in this era now where it's a lot of echo chambers and it's a lot of following. You know what I mean? Social media is followers, right? But I think we should all tap into our one of ones. There's no such thing as imposter syndrome.
Hmm.
And that's another element that I wanted to kind of tap in with you about your why and how, did you have doubts at certain points and how did you navigate those to come into your own, to be a business owner? That's not a small thing. And maybe your training experience as a trainer kind of helped evolve that. But your why, I would love to talk to you about your why and what was your why and how did you, a lot of people see the outcomes, but they don't know the energy that you had to kind of cultivate in order to get to this end game. I would love to unpack some of the layers of your why to how you got to this incredible space that we're in today.
Dude, I would love to, man. And something about understanding your why. A lot of people even have a hard time figuring out what their why is.
Mm,
And there was an exercise that I actually learned years back, and I have no problem sharing it as actually sharing the file of how you can go through it on a worksheet
mm-hmm,
with the audience. It's an exercise called Seven Levels Deep.
mm-hmm.
So it's really going deep 7 times with what you start with as your why. Right. So for me, and I think for everybody, right, you can say, oh, what is your motivation? Somebody might say, it's like, I just want to make more money.
Mm,
Okay, but why do you want to make more money?
mm-hmm. What's the
Okay,
intention
what's the
behind that?
intention behind it? Somebody
Absolutely.
might say, well, I want to make more money because I want to have a better lifestyle. Why do you want to have a better lifestyle? And what you do is you keep asking yourself why 7 times. And usually in that seventh time, you get to the root. And when you get to the root, then you really identify what your mover is. And for me early on, my why was different than what it is today. And I think a lot of people need to understand too is that just your why from before doesn't necessarily have to be your why now. And your why can change. So for me, when my daughter came into my life, my why changed. And my why today is I want to give my daughter the experiences I never had growing up and the opportunities I never had growing up. So for me, that's my why, right? And of course, through all that, if I go up, there's different things on top of that, but that leads to that
The
specific
nucleus
why.
is your daughter.
That's exactly it. That's
Come on,
exactly
we
it.
got
That's
bars in here.
that's the
Shout out to
mover.
Ken. Shout out to Kendrick. Go ahead.
We might have to do a little
No,
intro
no,
in here.
but you right now you are the king. You're the King Kunta, if you will. But
And it's one of those things where when you figure out that true why, that
mm-hmm,
deep rooted why, then you realize like, oh, this is why I wake up, or this
mm-hmm,
is why I have to wake up every
mm-hmm.
day. This is why I have to move. This is why I have to perform. This is why, I have to show up in a certain way. This is why I have to be a mover, an action taker, and that's what really moves you. But a lot of people don't know how to get to that why first. So you got to really focus on that exercise called Seven Levels Deep and literally ask yourself why 7 times with that first answer you got until you break it down.
I
And
love
once
that.
you get to the root, then you know what's going to really drive the impact to get you moving. Because now you have a real purpose. Now you
Mm-hmm,
have the real why. You don't have a surface level why. You
mm-hmm.
have a deep rooted why.
Yes,
And when you learn to get to the deep rooted why, that's when the action happens.
and and I'm glad you mentioned action because I feel like and I'll be personal. I feel like a lot of times for me, I've had a lot of great ideas. I don't know if I always did a great job of executing those ideas, and I think a large part of that was I wouldn't say fear. I would say a pursuit of perfection. And I think in that journey of trying to be perfect, you realize that doesn't exist. I think you just have to do the work. I think you
Facts.
just do it. Word to Nike, another sponsorship. Cut the check, Nike. Why every time we mention these brands, cut the check.
Got it.
But I think activating what you think and manifesting those things that's the most tangible actions is what we should strive for. It's one thing to talk about it, and me and you for a long time have talked about different ideas. I think you're actualizing those. You have a why down to the color purple and why you use purple for nucleus, and I think understanding the importance of answering those whys and then finding like-minded people and building a community that can help get you there is the major key. And I think largely in part, Nucleus was created through that prism, right? You wanted to find like-minded people and build a sense of community. I think a lot of individuals have great ideas and ambition and they can do great work, but we realize, especially in this era where, economy is probably looking a little shaky,
Hmm.
layoffs are rampant.
They are.
You have to rely on others. And I think we have to put ego and pride aside, sacrifice some of those individualistic goals for the greater good. And I think as a father, on both of our parts, we will learn things are bigger than us. I
Oh
think
yeah.
the moment you become a father, it's about sacrifice. It's about living for something that can outlive you. It's creating legacy. And when I look at nucleus, not to keep plugging, but we're gonna plug this today. This is we're creating legacy. And through these conversations, we're opening up pathways for other people to unlock channels within them. And it's why I like leading with vulnerability and transparency. I think through me being open, it allows other people who might be more apprehensive or more closed off to, hey, you know what, it's okay for me to have fears or doubts, or maybe I was a little too timid at a certain time. But once you get that aha moment, put your foot on the gas and let it rock. And then find people who are in alignment with your vision and who are on the same frequency as you. But first, you have to do the inner work within yourself to even know what your why is so you can answer those questions.
It's
So when you
true.
meet somebody else, you'll immediately recognize, oh, you've done that same work. You've done that same healing. You've done that same unlearning. We can build together. We
Yep.
can do something special. And then we can find other people. And before you know it, it's strength in numbers. You'll have an entire ecosystem that you have a lens of expertise. I have skills that I bring to the table. And now we are all bringing out, there's this concept of having seats at the table. Beyond having a seat at the table, we're not building homes, and now we have all of our we have now our individual homes, and now we have a community and a neighborhood. Now we have a whole neighborhood of skill builders, and then ambitious minded people who can put projects together, who can turn these ideas into something tangible that you can feel, see, and touch. And when I'm in this space talking to you now, it feels like manifestation. It feels like something I meditated on. I knew I was born to create and to share things. I don't. A lot of times I don't even feel like I'm talking, Anthony. I feel like this is a spiritual thing, bro. I feel like I'm a vessel for the universe, giving a message that everybody needs to understand. And I think once we understand that these ideas are not our own, these thoughts we have are not our own, you can give it up freely.
One
Because we
hundred
don't
percent.
take this is I don't take ownership of any of this. I have no pride and no ego. I come here ready to serve. My purpose is through service. And I take pride in that. From fatherhood through being a journalist at the Miami Herald, shout out to the Herald, support local
Hey, another
journalism.
plug there.
Being an editor there and helping lead our newsroom, all of that is birthed through purpose. Even pulling up out of school, talking to kids for no reason, seeing where their mindset is. What do you want out of life? Think about that right now. Don't wait until college or 18 or 25 and 30. Think about that at 10, 11, 12. Work on building
It's
skills
true.
right now that are going to prepare you for your future. My daughter's now playing chess because I want her to think
Love
critically.
that.
I want you to be a critical thinker now. Yeah, you might lose a couple of times. It's going to piss you off. Great. That is going to birth that energy and urge and ambition to make you work extra hard. You're going to wake up a little bit earlier to get some reps in and put those shots up, if you will. Think about the greatest people, in sports. You think about the LeBrons and Kobe's. They're up at 2 or 3 in the morning doing Navy SEAL exercises, practicing, putting shots up. You know what I mean? And I think the work, the work is where it's at for all of us. And I think we have to fall in love with the work and the process. Fall in love with failing. Fall in love with being uncomfortable. Because through those processes, that's what makes you special. And being consistent is what makes you great. And if you want to be great, you got to study and be a student of greatness. You know what I
Facts.
mean? And
Facts.
I'm thinking about the Nipseys. I'm thinking about the Steve Jobs. I'm in this rabbit hole now of just reading biographies. I want to learn people's stories of people who I admire and people who I thought did amazing things and who brought their ideas into fruition and had legacies and created, products that outlasted their lives, their earthly lives, if you
Yeah.
will.
And they're
So
shaking the world.
world shakers, and I think we all have that world shaking capability within
I
us.
agree.
Maybe we might just need to have certain conversations, or maybe we need to be in certain spaces or talk to certain people that can
Yeah.
tap and unlock those channels.
And sometimes just because you think that the way somebody else is impacting the world and you might see it perceptionally, it might seem bigger,
Yes.
might look bigger,
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean that the way you're gonna do it isn't as big as them. Because sometimes what might not be seen a certain way
Mm-hmm.
and might be seen a different way
Mm-hmm.
is still massively
Mm-hmm.
impactful.
You could be breaking
So
the mold in
you
real
can
time.
definitely be breaking the
Yeah.
mold. And you could be shaking the world in a whole different way. Not just the way that you think that everybody sees world shaking because it has to be a massive product or a
Mm-hmm.
massive this. There's so many other massive ways that you can
Mm-hmm.
shake the world and create impact
Mm-hmm.
without you even knowing it.
Yes.
Right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's something in that because sometimes we do get clouded by the things that we see or the perception of things, and you
Social
got
media is a lot about
one
you.
hundred
You're
percent.
looking at what other people are doing. You're looking at filtered, crafted images that they share, and you're like, dang man, why?
Now
Why?
with AI,
Yeah, and it's like, why am I not? You can't look at life through that lens. We were all uniquely built and created. You can't download too much of what other people are doing
you can.
because then you'll kind of get distracted and thrown off your own mission. You know what I mean? We all have a unique purpose that we were designed to bring that to the universe, and we can't get so caught up in watching other people because then you'll miss the gems that you're supposed to be disseminating onto other people.
That's why I say more creating, less consuming.
Yes, I agree with that, and it's why I have a time limit on my apps where after a certain time I can't get on social media. You know what I mean? I could need to open a book. You know what I mean? Or listen to a podcast, or
Or we
sit in
run into
silence,
each other.
or literally take a walk. I found now taking walks with no music, no headphones, by
Oh,
my some
so
of my
crazy that you
best
say that.
ideas are birthed through
Same.
through a 30-minute to an hour walk around our neighborhood.
And that's the hardest thing too, right? Sometimes is shoot, we're so used to the phone, or we go on a
Deprogrammed
walk.
from the matrix.
Dude, it's facts. Like I something I've done lately is I same thing on my walks is I've tried to just do my best to put the phone aside at least for a portion of that
I
walk.
agree.
And I said, okay, I'm gonna disconnect. I'm gonna just listen to the noises around me, to the nature, to the cars, to the people talking, to the steps, to the dog, to the things around you, and
Hmm.
create something out of that. And I
Hmm.
think that that teaches you how to also find your own creativity
And to be present.
and to be present.
Yeah,
Which being present is honestly the most important thing. And
yeah.
don't get me wrong, I think we're all at fault at moments that we might not be fully present. We're all human here, but when you find a way to be present, you find the true value in being present. That's when you're living life and you experience life, right? There's always a saying that you got to enjoy the process, and as much as it's easier to say than actually doing it, there's so much beauty in that because just like what I'm building here, with my business partner and everything that I've done before, and even watching my daughter grow, like we all have our goals. We all like we see the vision of like, okay, this is gonna be here with this many locations and
Yeah.
this much business and this many people impacted and this. That's great and all, but you have to learn to enjoy the steps in between
Mm-hmm.
because that process is where you live most of your life.
Mm.
And that's where people don't understand is that you lose your life
Mm-hmm.
when you're so only focused on that the goal is going to bring happiness, that in reality the process there's a lot of happiness in between that you can actually create success internally for yourself, and enjoy those moments and actually appreciate the steps of growth.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing, somewhere along those steps in the process, you prayed for those steps.
Facts.
You prayed for that
You
step.
did.
When I first opened this, like I was like, all right, cool, on to the next thing. All right, this event, that, and we gotta get a second location. And then I said, hold up.
Slow it
And I
down.
sat down on the chair. I remember, no lie, I sat down on the chair and I was like, let me just soak this one location in because I prayed for this one location. Like I prayed for this shit.
3 podcast studios.
And I was just like, let me be grateful. Let me just be grateful. Thank you, God. Like I prayed for this moment. Sure, I'm praying for the next moment and the next one after that, but let me just sit back and be in the moment for a second and say, wow, like I'm happy. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And of course, there's challenges and there's struggles and there's other stuff, but
Love
it
it.
feels good
Yeah.
when you can just take a step back and actually take yourself out of your mind sometimes and really put yourself in a place where it's like, just enjoy what you have right now.
I,
And I think that's so important for a lot of people to do. It took me a lot of time to work in that way and think that way. Especially with entrepreneurs, you're always go go go. You want to get
mm-hmm.
to the next. You want to
Mm-hmm.
strive for greatness. And I'm not saying that's not good, not that it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
There's good in that too, but there's so much good in just enjoying the process and realizing that you live most of your life in the process. And if you don't enjoy the process, well, guess what? The day you do get to your goal, you missed out on enjoying all these years, which is most of the years you spend time in. Same thing when it comes to your kids, your
Yes.
family, other
Yes.
things that you're doing, again, your business. And then you realize, like, oh man, like I missed out on 20 years, 30 years,
And
and
what was it all for?
what was it all for?
Yeah.
Because honestly, these are the moments you talk about later. Like
Absolutely.
when you hit your goals and when you get to that level, like what you talk about is this.
Putting a trophy up is one thing, but nobody's talking about those 2-a-day practices. Nobody's talking about those road trips and away games where you're playing cards with somebody on an airplane. You know what I mean? And just building, having those soul conversations, the deeper meaning behind life. And I believe patience, I think, is the greater theme here through all of this because you grow through what you go through. And I think those challenges, it bursts that character,
Yes.
that resiliency, that
Yes.
endurance to know that no matter what you go through, you can conquer it. And you don't have to
100%.
do this by yourself.
You
And
don't.
I think through that process, you find other people. And I keep bringing that up for a reason because I feel like we cannot do this alone. We can't isolate when we're faced with challenges. We can't go into this shell in this bubble. We have to talk to our peers and to people who we feel maybe a mentor, to family, or to our even our children. I learn more from my babies than I
Yeah.
do from listening, to an incredible podcast from somebody who's
True.
doing some work that I
Very true.
admire. Because they have a certain lens and they see life through a different perspective that's simpler.
Yeah.
And I think simplicity is another thing that we don't value enough. And I
Yeah.
think those walks, I think that it brings me back to that simplistic place, being that little kid on the playground,
I love that.
looking at the blades of the grass, listening to the birds chirp. Those little moments, breathing. We take so much of that for granted. Meditation taught me that also. Just taking every breath and appreciating that because we do have these lofty goals. We do have these benchmarks that we want to achieve. But if we're not taking advantage and appreciating every single second and moment, none of that stuff
No.
even matters, man.
That's why I always say it's patience with urgency. Patient and the
I love that.
urgency is
Patience with urgency.
that's
Another game, another gem for the audience.
and that's what I think that I've along the journey I've been learning more and more.
Mm-hmm.
It's being patient while taking that urgent action.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Balance.
Exactly, finding that balance, right? So it's and what's interesting about balance, and I'm gonna talk a
I'm a
little bit.
Libra. Shout out to the Libras. We
I
keep it
love,
on the Libra scale around here,
I love
baby.
talking about this topic, right?
Yeah,
Because
buddy.
for me, I believe that the goal is something I think Kobe said one time. He goes, "The goal is to always work for perfection,
Yeah.
knowing that you'll never hit perfection."
Ooh, I love that.
Right?
I love
So
it.
I always say the goal is to always seek and work for balance,
Yeah.
knowing that you'll never hit true balance.
Thanks.
Because you can get very close to balance, but it's like a seesaw. It's always going to be a little bit more one side to the other, right?
Ebbs
And
and flows,
and
right?
that's where you want to be, is that little part where you're teetering back and forth, very very tiny bit, where you're almost at a state of balance. But the reason why I say there's never a true balance is because in life, you're always going to lean a little bit more on one side at certain moments of your life than others. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? So sometimes you're building a business, you're building a startup, well, you got to understand you're probably going to lean more on one side of your life during a certain period of time. And that's okay because that's how you create success as well. And then there's other moments where you know what, family time is gonna take more time. Now you lean a little bit more, and then the other one goes down a little bit, and then you kind of find a place where it's kind of almost there, where it's like, okay, I'm almost balancing the both now. I feel good,
Yeah.
here, right? But you got to understand that when you do want to create success in different areas of your life, you will require more time spending on certain things, which means that your line might be a little bit heavier on one end than the other during that period of time, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I always say to people, don't feel that because you're not at that state of almost balance that you're not succeeding, because sometimes in order to succeed you have to be able to lean more on one side
Yeah.
than the other, depending on what you're working on.
Absolutely.
And then once you worked on that and figured that out, and then you figured the other thing out and figured the other thing out, you start creating that little tiny seesaw effect, so minimal that it almost creates that perfect balance.
Seesaw effect.
Seesaw effect, knowing that balance is not perfect,
Yeah.
knowing that perfection, you can never hit perfection, but you can get as close as possible. That's where you want to aim for. And when you get there, that's where you have harmony, right? And that's where you have peace, and that's
Yes.
where you have happiness.
Yes.
And another way to explain that, it's like you get a table that has four legs, right? For me, I look at that almost balance effect is you have a table with four legs, right? You got your four legs. One is health, one is self care, one is family, one is business, right? You need all four legs to have a strong table.
Absolutely.
So what happens if one table's loose,
Mm.
right? That table might still be up, but what if I bump the table?
False.
It falls,
Mm.
right? What if I take one leg off completely? That table's like this. What if I take off two? What if I take off three? What if there's none, right? So the way that to work at this is focusing on, okay, what is that one leg I got to focus on first? What is that one that I have to now lean on a little bit more and give it my time and energy?
And that can look like that
That can look
different.
different for everybody.
Different legs need different attention at
Yes.
different points.
Yes.
And just having discernment and being able to discern. Okay, I've been grinding this week. Let me go ahead and do like 2 days of nothing and just spend time with my daughter.
Yep, exactly. Exactly, because I need to fulfill that cup. I need,
Yes.
and there, for the way I look at it is that all those four levels of success, because those
Mm-hmm.
are four levels of success. You can be successful in business, but you might not be successful in the other three or the other
Mm.
two, or vice
Mm.
versa. Maybe
Mm.
maybe you keep saying I want to do a business, but
Mm-hmm.
hey, you ain't
Mm-hmm.
putting the time and energy you need to
Yeah.
have a successful business.
Absolutely.
You're putting too much time with your friends all the time,
Absolutely.
or you're only thinking about, oh,
Yes.
I just gotta go enjoy my hobby all the time.
Absolutely.
Well, that's not good either,
Yes.
right? If that's your goal of building a business,
Comfort
right?
zone.
So the way I look at it is you got to focus the one that's the weakest. You start with the one that's the weakest,
And that can change, right?
and
So
that can change.
yeah.
Yeah, that
Go
can
ahead.
change along
Yeah.
the way. You start with the one where you build that up, you get that one strong leg. Once you get that strong leg, then you work towards the next leg,
Of course.
and the next leg, and the next. And now you have a strong, solid table,
Sturdy.
right? And here's the thing too, like for me, health is physical,
Mm-hmm.
mental, and spiritual,
Come on.
right?
Come on,
Those are your
preach.
three levels of health.
Come preach.
So in health itself, you have three categories
Facts.
that you got to fulfill. You can
Absolutely.
break that. You can focus on one of those three first in your category of health.
Mm-hmm.
That could be broken down into three more, and then you move on to the next one. Self care. What is self care? For me, I always say you got to date yourself. That's
Mm.
self
Can
care.
you pontificate on that, brother Anthony? Because you preaching, you spitting right now.
Let's go.
Come on.
So
Can you break that down?
dating yourself
Mm.
means that you got to go do something for yourself.
Okay.
You got to take yourself out on a date. I think sometimes we look at dating as if, oh, I got to go with somebody. I got to take my partner with me. I got to date that person. When in reality, if you don't date yourself first, you ain't filling your own cup. You ain't
Mm.
filling your own
So how
happiness.
can you give anything else to somebody else if you're not?
One
That's so.
thousand
That's
percent.
so powerful.
And it could be as easy as like, you know what? I've had a great week or a great month. Let me go take myself out to my favorite
Yes.
restaurant. Let me go take myself out for an activity that I like to
I
do.
love it.
Let me go take myself off on a trip that I want to take
Absolutely.
that you can do for yourself. Whatever it is, it could look different for everybody. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter, but dating yourself is so important. And taking time to do that is very, very important. And when you do that, you start now fulfilling areas of your life that really bring joy and happiness to you. And then the next category we move on is your friends, which fall with your family, friends and family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fulfilling that, spending time with your friends, spending time with your families, it's so crucial, right? And being able to do that and fulfill that cup. And then last is your business or work, right? And the reason why I say those four in order are
Mm-hmm.
so important:
Mm-hmm.
health first, self care second, third is friends and family, fourth is business.
Mm-hmm.
When you have these three operating at a high level, and then you can operate this one at a high level, right? Now, keep in mind, remember this effect. I'm not saying there might be moments where this, for a certain period of time, has to take the lead for a few months to maybe a year, right? That's for the sacrifice. But if you're here all the time in business or work, you're dying out, you're burning out. You can't do it, right? And that's where awareness is so important. And when you're aware of these things and you tackle these things and you pay attention to these things, this is when you can start building your strong leg, right? But at the end of the day, the goal should always be when you focus on working your different areas of weakness, the goal is to have it in that order of health, self-care, family and friends, and business. So when you pour into those three, I'll tell you right now, your business is going to be thriving because
Absolutely.
you're showing up to your business powerfully.
Yes.
You're showing up to your business strong. You're
Mm.
showing up to your business with a different attitude, a different mindset, a different energy, and you're just showing up the way you're supposed to show up. And now you're fulfilling your cup.
And you showed up for yourself more importantly than anything. And I think you mentioned peace and being content. And I think what is success without the peace attached to it? You see a lot of successful people who are going through it have mental breakdowns. We want to be in here
Oh,
not just
I've had them.
and
I've had
and
them.
you don't want to be here for a good time. You want to be here for a long time. You
Yeah.
want to have long-term sustainability. And more importantly, we have children now looking up to us. We have a community that's looking to us as leaders, young leaders, and to show them different pathways to success. And success to me, like you said, it starts with the personal. It starts with the family. You know that should be the nucleus to
Hey.
everything. And I believe once you find your equilibrium in that space, the business thrives. I think
Hmm.
anybody who is taking care of home first, taking care of that inner work first, it's a natural. You're going to project all of the right energy into your business because that's a natural domino effect. But I think a lot of times, like you say, people focus so much on the grind and so much on their business, their relationships suffer. It's why you see marriages suffer. It's why you see certain, parental dynamics falter. And you don't know your children at a certain point, and then when they
Yeah.
get to a certain age, they're not respecting what you say because you haven't invested into them. The ROI is not going to make sense for you. In the same way you invest in
And
getting
ROI ain't just money.
no, it's not absolutely. I would say the biggest currency is not monetary. I think it's spiritually. You know, I think that's the best currency you can ever have. If you have a spiritual lens and you lead, I lead by
Totally.
spiritual means. So to me, that is your greatest currency, and I think money follows that. I think money looks for you when you have your heart and soul set in the right places and in the right things. You know what I mean? I believe in God, and I believe God
100%.
gives seed to a sower. So when you choose to sow and give freely and openly without any inhibition, you're going to get all of those blessings a thousandfold. And I've lived it. You know, I don't need a dollar to my name, and I can move about the world freely. I don't need money to validate who I am. My purpose is not birthed through anything superficial. You know what I mean? It's birthed through the real things, character. And I think going through things from childhood traumas, the PTSDs of just being a black man in America and navigating that and coming out on the other side of it and being somebody who's still happy and whole and still putting out amazing energy and getting that back in return. To me, that's the American dream.
Yep.
To me, that's breaking generational patterns. And I don't look at it as a generational curse. I think it's just patterns that maybe they didn't have an opportunity or a privilege to gain understanding on. We now have family history. We now have each other. We have the internet. We have Google. We have
The
therapy.
resources.
We have meditation, yoga. The people, our ancestors didn't necessarily have all. And maybe they have, but I think we have so much information and so many tools
Yeah.
available to us. We should now create a toolkit for ourselves, no matter what problem we. And one thing my mentor told me a long time ago: you never pray for storms not to come because that's not realistic. What you want to pray for are the tools to navigate any and every situation that you can ever encounter.
Yep.
So right now, what we need to focus on is building our toolkit up. We need to focus on building that, filling our cups up, and building that resiliency up.
Yep.
Because when you're faced with challenges or adversity, I, it's spiritual warfare. I expected this to come
It's true.
and I'm prepared for it. Now my armor is so tight. I'm a transformer to the nonsense. Now the more crazy stuff you throw at me, I recreate that and I weaponize it for my benefit.
Yep.
And I'm going to turn that into something that works for me. I'm going to flip that negative into a positive. And I feel like this is a mindset thing more than anything. I think my recommendation for anybody is to sharpen your mind and your soul. And I think once you work on those two things, the physical, the external, all of those things will come together. It'll be symbiotic, and that harmony that we all should strive for will naturally it'll naturally develop and it'll naturally
100%.
come to you.
And I love that you said about what your mentor brought up about don't pray for the storm not to
Yeah,
come.
it's not realistic.
It's not realistic. And here's the thing: what you pray for strength.
Yes.
You pray for courage.
Hmm.
You pray for all these different things. Well, guess what? If you pray for strength, God's gonna put you in a position that you got to be strong in.
And when you're faced
And when
with that challenge, and when you get those tests,
you pray for it, you pray for the strength.
so what we
How
gonna
do you get
what
strong?
we gonna do?
You got to put yourself in an
Yeah,
area to get
you
strong in.
you a trainer. When you in the gym, you got to do that
You
extra
think that's
rep,
fun?
do that
You
extra
think
step,
you think it's easy?
go that extra
You
weight.
think it doesn't hurt?
Come on,
1000%.
of course.
And that's the beautiful thing about that is that once you realize how prayer really works,
Mm.
you actually sit back and you actually are grateful for what you
Yes.
receive, because you know that even through that struggle, you know what's going to come out on the other side. And I constantly try to remind myself that, because trust me, I've gone through many struggles, and there's still struggles I go through, but I always remember, I'm like, I prayed for this.
Yes. I pray
That's
for everything that comes with this.
Mhm.
Everything.
And I know He's going to get me through it.
Correct. Because how many other things have you gotten through already? How
Yep.
many other battles that you thought were insurmountable that you came through? How many a- after you play in a playoff? I love sports. After you go through so many playoffs, you know what I mean. Eventually, you're not fearful at that moment. Give me the ball with the last 5 to 10 seconds left. Make or miss. I'm shooting this shot with confidence.
Yep.
I'm kicking this field goal with the utmost
That's why
belief.
I'm excited for our Heat to see what they do
Shout out
next
to the
year,
Heat.
man.
Shout out
Hey,
to the
look,
Heat.
I know they're out, but obviously they face some injuries,
Yes.
they face some other downsides, but it's one of those things. It's exciting when you look back at it, like this Heat
Yeah.
Celtics in the last few years.
let me ask you about heat culture, because I think we're talking to our Miami audience here.
All right, all right.
I think when we talk about heat culture, a lot of people are, oh, that's so corny, or what does that mean? To me, heat culture means you proper planning prevents poor performance. They win a championship in June, July, and August. They're doing trainings that can break the average person down, because by the time we get to April and May and June, we're built for it. Tough. We're built for this.
Yeah.
Because we had the championship mindset in August and September. We had this ready to go in training camp in preseason. We played preseason like it was the finals. And I think when I hear heat culture, when I think about Udonis Haslem, Dwayne Wade, LeBron while he was here, Chris Bosh, they had a championship mindset way before the season started.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I would argue they had a championship mindset in college or in high school. They built those qualities up. They had that toolkit. They had that bag going way before they got to the league. By the time they got to the league, they were just putting all of those great qualities on display. It was for the world to see now. Now it's just not for you anymore. You're not just playing for yourself in your backyard or in front of the homies at the local gym. Now you're on the world stage. Now you have all of these cameras. You got the world watching.
Yep.
And I think we all come into that moment where we break outside of our own homes, our own family, our own community, and we put all of our talent and all of our capabilities on full display for the world to see.
100%.
And I think once you do that, that's the beauty in it all. You can now laugh and think about all of those tough times that you thought you would never make it through, and you saw how you came on the other side. Now you get everybody else to see your testimony, your purpose, and that should fuel them and inspire them and empower them to channel that energy within their own lives. Because the reason why we're talking is openly about the things we've went through and faced is so you can understand
100%.
your why, so you can understand how to tap into your toolkit and get into your bag, because you're capable of finding your purpose and living it out in the same ways that we're working to and living it out now.
And that's why it's so important when, relating with sports, that's why it's so crucial to put in the work,
Yes.
put in the practice,
Mhm.
put in the reps,
Mhm.
do what you got to do
Mhm.
off of the platform where you have the center of attention, the spotlight. So that way, when you do the work and you go on that platform, you're there to shine.
Mhm.
And that's why you see the athletes. Like you see a team like the Heat
Mhm.
because of what the work that they put in at practice when people are not looking.
Yes.
Right? What people cannot see.
The
What people don't
undrafted, the people who are castaways.
right? The
You ain't supposed to be in the league
the
right
people
now.
that say, who is this guy that
Yeah.
they picked up?
Why the hell would they draft him? Why
Exactly.
the hell would they pick up this dude who came from, I don't even know the school's name?
And then they come into the spotlight,
Yes.
and you're like, who is this undrafted
Mhm.
player?
How could you not see that gem in him? How could you not see this rose that grew from concrete?
Look at even he obviously he's young to the team, but dude, he for what it was, he was a key player this year. Was this guy Wright for the
Yes,
Heat?
absolutely.
Darrell's
Yeah.
what was it? Darrell's cousin or
Yes.
Darrell's son, right?
Yes.
Darrell Wright's son.
Yeah, absolutely.
Playing for the Heat.
Mhm.
It's like got a shot, got an
Unsung
opportunity,
hero.
and the beautiful. That's the other thing I want to brought about. Speaking about this is about the Heat is they keep it within the family.
Absolutely.
If you look at all the Heat players from the past, they either have a job in the staff,
Mhm.
they're either assisting in something, they're still showing up for one another. They're all supporting. The Heat culture has created a family culture that you see that they still all stick together and they always want people, whether it's their kids or somebody, to get involved
Yes.
because they saw what they did for them.
Mhm.
And that's why it's cool when you look at the Heat staff. It's like you got their assistant coach,
Spoelstra
you know,
chopped up film.
Postal chopped up film. Then you got Alonzo up there,
Absolute zone.
next to
Yeah,
Riley.
yeah.
You got Karan Butler.
Of course.
You got
UD's now taking on that same role.
you got a lot of these guys
OGs.
who are OGs of the Heat, and they've stuck around because
Mhm.
they know what the Heat culture
Mhm.
is, because it goes beyond the
Mhm.
basketball,
Mhm.
right? And that's the beauty in it. That's why their team does so well. And that's why their team
Consistent.
is
Discipline.
consistent. Look when
Accountable.
Iguodala came and played those 2 years with the Heat. What's the
Absolutely.
first thing he said when he left? He goes, "Dude, I played. He played for Golden State,
Golden
won those
State,
championships."
absolutely.
He goes,
Of
"The way they
course, of
train
course,
here, the way
of
they're
course.
disciplined here,
I
the
see-
mindset here was so different."
But I see why they want all the smoke. I
Yeah.
see why when they're in that moment, they don't shy away from it.
And he said when he said that one of the reasons when he came back, remember how they had that period where they didn't win the championship, then
Yeah.
they came back, won that last championship,
Facts.
and he said one of the things he brought to that team
Mhm.
when they won that last championship was
Hmm.
because he brought some of that Heat
That he
mentality. And he said, I
absolutely,
drilled it in some of my guys
absolutely.
out there,
Hmm.
and I brought them that Heat mentality. And he said it helped.
LeBron
You
said the
know?
same
Yeah.
thing when he got that chip in Cleveland. He said he, I would say he wouldn't have gotten it without coming to the Heat, but the Heat being there for 4 years, learning under Pat, learning from Spo, learning from D Wade, how to lead, how to have a championship mindset, no matter what. He took all of that and he did. He brought something to Cleveland that they'll never ever forget. He brought
Yeah.
them that first NBA championship ever, but he credited a lot of that success to the foundation that was created when he was in Miami. And I think we all have to find that heat culture within all of our worlds and all of our universes, right? We have to apply that same sensibility to our lives.
100%.
And when you build that in-house base and that in-house community, you know what I mean? It'll manifest in so many incredible ways. And finding beauty in that struggle is what we should all strive to do. And I think through that prism, we can accomplish anything we want.
I love it, man. Dude,
And on
this
that note,
this has been fun, man. Dude, it's been a pleasure chopping it up with you, bro.
as always,
I gotta ask you because I gotta ask
of
the
course,
fun
of
question
course,
here. Do you think LeBron's coming to Miami?
I don't think he's coming to
Okay, I just
Miami.
want to know because
I
there's been
don't.
buzz.
I
There's been buzz.
I
I've been
don't.
hearing buzz
If Bronny goes to LA, I have to feel like he stays in
for
LA
sure,
because I think the
for sure.
market. I mean, he already has his businesses, his ventures, his Spring
He's
Hill.
made some movies.
Yeah,
He's
absolutely. He's going to transition into that media space
for sure.
sooner or later. He has the podcast with JJ
Yeah,
Redick. I think he's going to enter the next phase of
true.
his life is ownership,
And
right?
he's already back. He's already. I know the Lakers already said they'll back him up on that.
Absolutely.
Now they say they're not going to take him number one.
Yeah.
They did say that they weren't going to take him,
And that's
which
fine.
you know,
LeBron just said he wanted to play with his kid
yeah.
before he retired.
But then he did say and said, oh well, he goes, I changed my mind.
Of
If it
course.
doesn't happen,
Of
it
course.
doesn't happen. But I don't know.
Now listen,
I
I
think
just
that's
don't want to you Heat fans because I know how passionate you get. I just don't want to build your hopes up. Now, if
100%.
LeBron did come to the Heat, I think that would be
But
incredible.
it's funny
Full
because I
circle
feel like
moment.
with the Heat fans, it's like 50-50. I feel like some fans don't want him at all, and then
See,
some
but nah,
and then
but
some fans are like,
but
bring him over
but
here.
bro, Cleveland said the same thing, and when he
True,
came
true,
back,
true,
they
true,
were
true, true,
burning
true.
jerseys.
That is a
The
fact.
inmates running
They
the
were even
asylum
worse.
when he
They were
left,
even worse.
and when he came back,
Oh,
he's gonna have a statue in Cleveland one
one
day.
thousand percent.
So fans are emotional, and as they should be. You know, I'm not going to judge that, but I think when you think about what LeBron brought in those 4 years, he was at his most efficient, his highest level. You have to appreciate, as a fan of the game, what he brought to the
Yeah,
table and the energy that he brought to this city. And Dwayne Wade obviously set the tempo. I'm not going to take away from this is Wade County forever. But what LeBron did was special. And even if
did
you didn't like the way he left or didn't like that y'all might have left a championship or two on the table, you would have to welcome him back with the same
100%.
love that he chose you,
Yeah, and
you
he
know,
won his first
and
rings
he
here too.
and this is indelible mark he left, an indelible memory that he has here that I don't think could ever be replaced. So I think they would accept him with open arms, and I think it would extend the championship window of this nucleus
I
and
think
core.
I think if he came, I think he signed for 2 years.
Yeah, two years
I
and
think
be
he'd do it
out
2 years,
and sell off into the
and
sunset.
I think that they'd win one championship.
I think so. I think
With that Heat team right now,
yeah, they Jimmy Butler. What do you think? What do you think happens with Jimmy? Do you think he wants what 2 years? I forgot the con, but it's a pretty high. I might say what 100
yeah,
mil for 2 years. Are you willing to keep him? Are you willing to pay almost 50 mil to keep him
yeah,
around?
it'll be interesting.
These are the pressing questions, and this is the latest episode of our
I love you,
of our
man.
content creating
Till the next
ventures.
one.
It's the next adventure. Until the next time, always a pleasure, my brother. I'll see you at the crib.
Let's
You know what I
do
mean?
it.
Thank you so
Like
much
always.
for allowing me to come on your
Of
platform.
course.
Nucleus, it's an amazing movement. Please tap in. You'll have an opportunity to not just listen to incredible hosts like ourselves, you'll also be able to take the world into your own hands and create content through your own lens as well. And I think that's what makes this growing community beautiful. And we'll pop up to a city, to a neighborhood near you.
Hey, amen to that,
All
brother.
right, baby.
Much love.
Much love.